Hi everybody, I have a basic tutorial for mixing in Pro Tools. I'm just going to open up Pro Tools. I've got Pro Tools 12, but I'm going to demonstrate how you can get a good mix. I'm going to create a very quick little track with some virtual instruments, and you can use this for Pro Tools 12, 11 or 10. I had one of my subscribers called Kev asked me if I could offer some tips to improve his mixing. So this one's for you, Kev. So here's 48 kilohertz down here as the sample rate and 24-bit as the bit depth. That'll give you some nice high quality audio. And I'm going to create, this is the arrange view. This is a new session I've just created. So I need some tracks to work with. And first off, I'm going to create 4 stereo instrument tracks. Make sure that if you've purchased, if you have purchased Pro Tools, then you can make sure you download all of the like extra content, so you got the instruments and the plugins and things like that. So that's a separate download from the program itself, and they all come with Pro Tools, but they're a separate download now. So I want to make a stereo master fader as well. So this is going to be my master channel where I apply some of my mastering, and all of your tracks will sum up and go out of that master track, just like a mixing desk. And you can see that here I've just hit Command plus to switch between the mix view and the arrange view. You can do that with this window here, mix and edit. I've always called this the arrange view, that's what they used to call it. So I'm going to pop a kick drum on here. I'm going to also want to have a look at the transport, so I'm going to go to the window and the transport, because I want to set my beats per minute here. Make sure that conductor track is on there, so you can set your own beats per minute. This little blue one here has to be blue for you to be able to set your own beats per minute. I'll go 95 beats per minute. I'm also going to go to track and create a click track, so I can here, so we should be able to hear the click now. Wow, that is a weird click sound. I've just done a fresh installation of Pro Tools 12, so click too, I'm not used to that. But anyway, so I'm going to pop the virtual instrument, the multi-channel plugin. Let's have a look. Instrument, expand. I'm just going to use some real simple sounds for this. And I'm going to select a patch for this. I'm going to go kick. Let's have a look here under drums. What have we got? We got kick menu. Let's have a look. So I have to actually enable this track to hear this. So we've got a bunch of kicks there. The sounds aren't that fantastic in let's have a look in this virtual instrument, but it's not bad. There are some alright sounds. So let's do a kick drum here. I'm just going to play this in. So there we've got that MIDI there. I'm just going to double click, or actually I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I don't need to see this clip list over here, so I'm going to hide that. I just want to make this into a loop. So you'll see there's like a grid there, but it's not, it's on slip at the moment. So I want to snap this to a grid to make that into a loop. So that's up here, slip or grid. And then you can change the resolution of the grid by clicking in the grid value. It's kind of hidden, you click next to it, and I want the bars and the beats here, and I want it to be 1 bar in its resolution. See how now that grid is just 1 bar long, and that's, I'm using the multi tool, so you can have the trim tool or the grab tool or the selection tool, but I like to use all three at once, and that way if you're on the top half it's the selector tool, if you're on the bottom half it's the grab tool, so you can click it and drag it sideways, and if you go to the edge it's a trim tool. On the top corner is a fade tool for the audio as well, if you've got audio. So that's gonna kill that note because I need to quantize this. So I've just double clicked on that to open the piano roll, which is the MIDI editor, and those are the notes that I played in. I'm just going to do a very simple selection of those, and where is it now? So it's under event, operations, and quantize, and I want to quantize to 16th notes. I'm just going to click apply, and that's going to shift them all onto that grid. So that's that one there. I could use MIDI tracks, multiple MIDI tracks to route to this one expand and have like the 4 different banks going at once if I wanted to. But I'm just going to, just because I'm feeling lazy, I'm doing this really quickly. I'm just going to throw an expand on every track. This is not best practice, but this is a powerful computer. I can easily do that. So hi-hats maybe, or maybe a snare. So here's a snare. Let's have a listen to the snare. So I'll give myself a bar to lead in here. Nothing special, but I'm going to do the same thing here. Event, operations, so what is that? Is that shift 0? Or command 0? Option 0, there we go. Option 0 will bring up that menu there. And then let's go hi-hats. I'm peeking out on the master track there. So I'll show you how to fix that in a second. Super simple. I'm going to quantize this. Option 0, 16th notes, and now I'm going to, so I'm just going to name these as well by double clicking on them, and you can move to the next track by hitting command sideways. See how it changes the name there? I'm holding down the command, so that's hats. I'm going to make a bass on this one. Oh, just quickly, I'm going to switch over to the mix view. I'm peaking on the master bus. Might be that horrible click that's actually doing that. We're running a bit hot on this master bus as it is anyway, we want a really nice mix should be metering on average somewhere between probably 6 and 2. So as soon as you hit 0, that's the loudest you can go in digital audio, you'll get a clip. You do not want it. See we're running pretty hot already. We're up to like we're peaking up at about -2. Like as we add in bass and other keyboard sounds and you get more of a mix, that's just going to push that way up. So I'm going to do a little trick here. Click all. That means, oh hang on, that's going to grab the master. That's going to be no good. I'm just going to grab the kick, bring it down 5 decibels, do the same to the hat. See, now we're about -8, -7, which is sort of better for a drum kit, and we'll do this as we go. So a bass, let's get a bass sound. I'm just going to keep whacking on these expands. If you're having problems with incoming latency, like if you're hitting the key and there's a delay, I'll show you how to fix that. Like if you hit the key and then there's a delay to like when you hear the sound, you need to go up to this setup and go to the playback engine, and you need to put the samples down. Like when you're mixing, you should have it up the top here, but if you're recording in Midi, like ideally you want it to be like down this range, down this end, 128. But it depends on the power of your computer as to these latency levels. So I'm not experiencing any latency, so that's fine. So here we go, just record some bass. So that was an absolutely pathetic performance, but let's have a listen. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just grab that first half. I'm going to manually just quantize this a bit. I just double clicked in an empty space to make a MIDI note there. That's the velocity down there. See, I got velocity. That's how hard the note hits in MIDI land. So that'll do. We're not looking to make a masterpiece, we're just wanting to show you how we do it. And I'm going to hit Command D, duplicate. If you haven't figured out, I'm on a Mac, so Control D on a PC will do the same thing, or you can just go, I think edit, duplicate, that way. And then I'm going to create a new track, another stereo instrument track. The bass could have been, these could have actually been mono. This is their individual instruments. We only really need a stereo one if we've got a big stereo sound. But let's just grab an electric piano. What have we got here? A Mark II. See what that sounds like. That'll do. Just enable my click. You can keep your click on just for the count in by, see how here we've got this volume automation line. When I drag that out, I can actually turn the click off so it's like, so then I don't hear it when I don't need it. So It's just giving me a count in. So we're in C, so I'll just do that again. Whatever. So there I got some bung notes in there. Let's have a listen. What is it? That one. So then I can grab all of what I've done here and I can just duplicate all of that again. I'll just duplicate this section, see if it lines up. So I just used the overlapping end there, and I'm on the grid here, see how it's snapping to those lines? I'll just hold down the command button to temporarily go off that grid. Okay, so let's have a look at this master bus in the other view. So what are we hitting there? It's kind of averaging around 10, peaking up to 4 or 2. So we can probably get a bit more juice out of this. What I might do first is just add some, like we've got some content here, so now I'm just going to create some effects tracks. Now you can, like if I wanted hi-hat reverb, like I've seen a lot of beginners just go straight over to these inserts. If you can't see these inserts, by the way, it's probably because you've got them turned off. Here, there's the sends and the inserts. If yours was looking like that, might be a bit late to tell you that, but so what we want to do is, like a lot of people I've seen have pop reverb like directly on a track. And that's not actually a very good way to do it, because when you change your dry wet, so dry is 100% of that sound, original sound, and wet is 100% of the reverb being generated by that sound. So as you dial it up towards wet, it will actually pull the volume of the original sound back. So it's not ideal. What you want to do instead is to create some effects sends or an effects bus. So I'm going to go track, new. I'm going to create a reverb and a delay, so I need 2 stereo auxiliary inputs. Here they are. I'll call this one verb for reverb, and I'll call the one below it DLY for delay, and then I'm going to put a reverb plugin on that. That's not a stock plugin. I think Deverb is, yeah, that's a stock plugin. And the delay, I will chuck on a mod delay. And what presets have we got here? We've got a lot. Actually, I just want like a simple delay. Oh, this will do. let's hit sync, so we can just choose okay, so that'll sync to our tempo. Sorry, it's 95 beats per minute. And then this is a stereo delay, so this will be 100% wet, and I just wanted it to be probably chord notes, eighth notes, maybe eighth note delay. We'll come back to that. And the reverb, these should be all the way wet, so I'm just going to use a large hole, that's the default. And then this is how we use these effects tracks. You make sure that there's an incoming, see how it says no input? We just need to make sure that it's coming in. You click on that, and this menu only shows if you've got in/out selected. So we go bus, I'm going to go bus 1, 2 for the reverb, and I'm going to go bus 3, 4 for the delay. And then I'm going to, now that we've got an incoming track for each of those, we can then now use these sends to send some of the audio to bus 1, 2, which is the reverb, and it brings up a little fader. So now you're just adding the pure effect on top rather than degrading the original sound, because it's just sending some of that audio into the reverb and you're just getting reverb on this track. Let's see what happens if we send some to bus 3, 4, which is the delay. So that delay is not sounding fantastic. I am going to link these so that they do the exact same thing. I don't really want a stereo delay. That's kind of cool. You can create some nice little effects with that. So I'm going to pop a little bit of that reverb on the snare. None on the kick drum. Maybe a tiny bit of reverb on the electric piano. And you can copy this if you hold down Option and drag. You can copy a send or a plug-in to another track. Now we've got like a bit of a slapback delay on that. So when I'm mixing, I normally like to have track colors on for the different types of instruments there. I just double clicked on that little bar there. I'll make the bass blue and the keys yellow, whatever. Okay, so now I just want to add some dynamics to this, so compressors. So on this kick drum, I'm going to put a plug-in under dynamics. I'm just going to put a standard compressor limiter, which is the Pro Tools one there, and dial up the kick preset. See what it's looking like. I'll just solo this. So with the kick drum, because it's a highly transient sound, you want a slow attack, so I would probably have that attack between 50 or 100 milliseconds. Medium to fast release, so it lets the front end of the transient through. You wouldn't want it any less than 30 milliseconds really. Well, depends on the sound really. They've chosen a soft knee, which is probably fine for a kick drum. Probably, yeah, doesn't really matter. And then just drag that threshold down. That's what I was grabbing there. This is the threshold. You usually want about 1 to 2, maybe 3 maximum decibels of gain reduction. That's the GR there. Probably a little bit too much compression. So I tend to start with the kick drum because on this master track, a very helpful reference level for the kick drum is about -10 decibels. And then you build the rest of the track on that. So at the moment, the loudest note's about -8.3. So I'll probably bring this outcoming gain down a little bit, or maybe I can just bring the track fader down a little bit. Now I'm about at -10, so that's good. That's a little bit too much reverb on that. And then normally you'd want some EQ as well for a kick. Depends on the kick sound that you've got. But I mean, if we're doing a really quick and brutal little mix here, let's see what these presets are awful, by the way. I might just want a little bit of a low shelf. Cut it out around 200 Hertz maybe. It really does depend on the sound. You might not need those highs here. So what I might do with those MIDI notes, because you generally want the kick drum to be fairly consistent in electronic music. So I'm going to grab the velocities, drag them all the way up to the top so they even out, and then bring them back. So I'm going to mute these other tracks. I'm going to chuck some EQ on this snare. Just doing some quick and brutal EQ, just give it a bit of thwack. Get out a bit of those listen to it with and without. Okay, it's not a fantastic snare sound, but I usually chuck a compressor on the snare and the kick drum. You want a medium attack and a medium release. Something like that's going to work. I'll just pull the threshold down until I see the gain reduction meter kick in. Maybe give that a bit of a knee. Hi-hats. I'm going to chuck an EQ on the hi-hats. This is the high pass filter, HPF. Click in to turn it on. I'm going to get rid of some of the low frequency out of those hi-hats. Because we don't need anything much below 200, 150. Depends. It always depends on the sound anyway. I'm not going to be too particular about this. I'm just giving you some general guidelines. And on your bass, you know, I tend to chuck some EQ on everything here. So I'm just going to chuck out, I'm actually going to chuck high pass on that just at 30 Hertz. So I'm just sweeping to find some frequencies that are not very nice, and then I'm going to pull them out. Maybe pull a little bit of that out. Just put the Q up on that. Just a quick brutal EQ there. Under the dynamics, we want to grab a compressor. I'm going to use the BF76, which is an emulator of classic. Why did that not come out here? There we go. This is a emulation, the Bomb Factory's emulation of classic universal audio compressor, the 1176. It's a peak limiter. So I think for a bass, so this is like a fast attack and a slow attack, so it's sort of like the other way around. With the bass we want, fast attack and fast release is fine. And then that's your gain reduction meter there. And that's about 2 decibels of gain reduction. This is a pretty simple compressor. You just tell it how much you want in, and that also gives how much compression is happening as well. It's like a input and a threshold all in one. So if I have that low, we're not hardly getting any compression, if at all. And this is the ratio of compression, so how much compression: 4:1, 8:1, 12:1, 20:1. So I'm just going to do mild. I'll do 8:1. Get a few decibels of gain reduction, and then the outputs for the volume. Let's listen to it with it and without it. I'm not a huge fan of the Bomb Factory version of this plugin. I prefer the Waves or the Universal Audio, but that'll do the job. Might chuck a second layer of compression there. Volume down a little bit. And let's have a listen to these keyboards. I'll give them a bit of an EQ. You can do a bit of mixing through these plugins if you want. You can change the output level. Brighten it up a bit. Take out some mud. Boost the height a bit. So there's some frequencies I didn't like that much. Let's have a look at that master bus, because I'm seeing some peaking happening down there. Let's have a look what's going on. That's actually pretty good. So like the aim of the game is to get like a nice fat average level without hitting your peak meter, which is the red. Alright, I'm just going to grab some headphones really quick. I probably should have been wearing these headphones all along, so you're not getting spill back, but this is just a really quick, nasty one-take wonder for you. Let's have a see if these work. I'm just going to very quickly record a vocal. I'm going to go a mono. You always tend to use mono for vocal. And name that box. Select the input. Oh, actually, this is not going to work because yeah, this will work. I just need to change the playback engine here, because you're listening to this on the line level. So just going to do this really quickly so I can cut a vocal. The input being the mic line in one, where I've got the mic plugged into. 1 2 2 2. So we're metering there. A really good level for the vocal is somewhere between, see, that's about as quiet as you want it to be. See how it goes up into the next screen stage there, and that's getting pretty close to peaking. So somewhere in this, when you're tickling around here, is good for a vocal. A 1 2 3, yeah. 1 2 3. I'm getting groovy. So that is probably a tiny bit loud. You'd probably want it to be looking a bit more, something like that. I've just grabbed the gain. I'm just going to take these headphones off now and switch back really quick so you can hear again. One, two, three. All right. So if that was a vocal, I would go probably up here and click on slip, and I'll just clean this right up. Getting groovy. 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna solo that. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. I'm getting groovy. So there's that fade tool I was talking about. If you want to get a clean, surgical kind of studio type vocal, you can do what I'm doing right now and just chop out those breath noises or in between. Or if you want to keep it a 1, 2, 3. Yeah. If you want to keep it a bit more live, you can keep that those middle bits in, and then you can see where it says waveform here. You can use this volume to like automate the volume. I'm clicking the command button to be able to add a breakpoint, so you could actually just do some volume automation and dip down there where you're not using it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to pop EQ. So vocals, usually you don't really need much below about 100 Hertz, probably 80 Hertz. 1, 2, 3. Boost around 5 kilohertz, depending on the microphone and the vocalist. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. I'm getting groovy. So, I mean, the EQ on the vocals is highly subjective. There are some general guidelines. You tend to be boosting up, getting crispiness and air and things like that, and then you're getting rid of mud, and depending on, it really does depend on the microphone. It depends on the room, the studio, so many factors. But generally, you chuck a high pass filter on to get rid of any rumble, and you sweeten up the highs, and then anything in between is more tone. And then I'm going to chuck a compressor. 1, 2, do about 100 millisecond attack. Actually, I might do a really tight vocal compressor, so a short attack, medium release, hard knee, big ratio. 1, 2, 3. That will be a kind of a brutal studio kind of compressor, like heading. I mean, if we head up to like towards 10, we're like, it's like a limiter, but we can do about that. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. We're getting about 4 decibels of gain reduction. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. I'm getting groovy. And then I'm going to chuck some on the sends. I'm going to get some reverb. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1. And I'm going to pop some of that delay on there. You can make as many effects return tracks as you want. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. I'm getting groovy. So if I wanted to like put another bit, like a big reverb on that vocal, it'd be as simple as going to track new, creating another stereo auxiliary input, and choosing a bigger reverb. So like, like a church, a large church, big decay. And then I make sure that I choose a bus for that, bus 5, 6. And then I'll send some of this to bus 5, 6 as well. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. So I'm probably using a little bit too much of these. Like, it's, to my taste, is not overdoing it with the reverb and the delay. It really depends on the style of music you're making, though. It's totally dependent, and it's subjective. As mixing is like, there are some general guidelines, but there are no absolute hard and fast rules, because there's so much which is for taste. So now we've got a basic track. We've kind of mixed it. It's sitting all right. I haven't gotten too complicated. I've just done some very basic mixing. Our overall level is sitting kind of nice. So now I just want to finish off this track and export it as an MP3 or uncompressed WAV file, depending on what I'm exporting it for. So I'm going to do my own mastering on this, because if it's just a little home demo, you want to add a bit of mastering. And the way we do that is by adding some inserts on this master track. So they'll be affecting the entire mix. So I'm going to grab an EQ. This is a really basic mastering chain. An EQ. I'm going to grab a compressor, limiter, and then I'm going to also grab Maxim, which is like a peak stereo ultra maximizer, peak limiter mastering sort of tool. So you know, some mastering EQ, again, you'd probably have to sit there, and I've got the volume a bit too low as well to make this really relevant for my ears, but I tend to sometimes boost some of the bass and pull out a little bit of mud. Just whatever the track needs, really. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. I'm getting groovy. Let's pull some of these effects off of that vocal. With the compressor, there's a good little preset here, actually. I hope they still have this. Oh no, they don't. Gentle limiting, yeah, that's the one. I don't mind this one. 1, 2, 3. For a quick, nasty master, that gentle limiting preset works pretty well. It adds 3 decibels of gain. It's ratio of 100 to 1, which is like brick wall limiting. 1, 2, 3. And you can see on the track that 1, 2, 3. It's kicking in. It's giving me, you know, 3 or 4 decibels of gain reduction. So what we're taking out there from that compression, we're putting back in at this outgoing gain stage. 1, 2, 3. That's working fine for me for this. And then the maximizer is as simple as grabbing the threshold and pulling it down until you see attenuation on this output meter. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. And the outgoing ceiling, I tend not to have it at 0.0. I tend to bring it down to -3.3 or -0.5, depending on the application, especially if you're making it into an MP3, because you can get what's called intersample peaks, that will, even if you're compress the life out of it and you're hitting a brick wall at 0 dB, you can get a peak between samples. So that, and especially when you're converting to MP3. So we're getting about 4.5 decibels of attenuation. I tend to use an RMS meter or a loudness meter. I actually think that I have a free meter here, or this is a waves meter. Yeah, this is my waves meter that I can set to RMS. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. For a quick demo, or like RMS can be a loudness. I usually use a waves loudness meter on my mastering laptop that I do some of my own mastering on. But I'm not going to really go into that too much. This is just more of a mixing tutorial. And if you've got that ultra maximizer on and you're getting some attenuation here, 3 or 4 decibels, 1, 2, 3, see how it's tickling that meter, then you're just getting your track nice and fat and loud, and then it's as simple as going back to our edit view. I tend to I've just hit the enter button on the key, the number pad here, to add a memory location, or you can actually go up to markers here and hit plus. I'll tell it that that's the start. And that's the end. So I might do a fade out, and I'll call that the end. And then it's as simple as pulling the range there, that's with that selector tool, and going file, bounce to disk. I'm going to do a WAV. I'm going to also grab an MP3 because we're working in 2448, and I want interleaved, so it's a stereo file. And I'm going to do an offline bounce. This is just the metadata for the MP3. I'm not going to do that. So I actually didn't pay attention to where that was going. Oh, so that's just going to the bounced files in my folder. So that means that this is the session folder that I had here, and it would be under bounced files.
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
So there you have it. That is my quickest, brutalist, make a quick song in Pro Tools, how I would do some mixing. If I was working on a more serious track, I would obviously take a lot more time to tweak these EQs. I would be grouping, making groups, and having group buses. But that's some more advanced stuff, and I will be working on an advanced mixing in Pro Tools course in the future, which I'll be making available for a small fee. But I'm going to give this one away to you for free. Check it up on YouTube, and I hope you enjoyed it. If there is some things in here that I missed, or that you didn't understand, or you want some clarification, just leave a comment or email me at nat@natpike.com. All of that information, my website will be in the description, so you can just nat@natpike.com. So thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.